Welcome back to the Joystick Show, where your three favorite friends from Hawaii are here to talk story about comic news, pop culture, and video games. If this is your first time here, thank you for spending some time with us. We're doing something a little different today, and we're so lucky and honored to have a guest on the show. And I'm also here with Drake, I should say. Hey, Drake.
Hey.
There he is. All right. Obviously, I don't do this, but we are super honored and lucky to have Reena Friedman Watts on the show from Better Call Daddy.
Better call him.
Reena, how are you doing?
Hey, I am pumped to be here. I love that Twitter connected us.
Yeah, absolutely. That was great. You know, I don't know if we ever would have ran in the same circles in life, maybe, but this Twitter group, because of the podcast and the amazing people we meet through it, like, oh man, when you responded and you were like, I want to do it, I was like, absolutely, this looks fun. I'm so happy that you're on.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I'm excited too that you guys did improv for 4 years. Actually, me and my husband took improv for about a year and a half too.
Yeah.
Wow.
How's that
Really?
yes and working out at home?
Exactly. It's funny. Sometimes I'm like, are you practicing or what is that?
Are you being serious right now, or are you trying to like neg me for a joke? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Don't pit
What
me
are
out.
we doing? So I will just say, in preparation for this, I listened to, I don't know, at least 5 different episodes. And one, you are an incredible speaker. You're an incredible interviewer. Before I knew all of your background stuff and just the premise of your show and everything too is so great. Your dad, and we were kind of talking about this offline. Like, I love my dad and he's great, but if I didn't have my dad, I would want your dad, because that guy is amazing. He's so just wise and incredible. Like, how did you come up with the premise for your show?
So even in recently trying to develop a theme song for the show, I was like, if you don't have my dad or you don't have an encourager like my dad, you can have God love, you can have self-love, you can have friend love. But I'm lucky and I have dad love, right? So you just need somebody in your life who can give you that encouragement. We all need encouragement. And my dad is that for me. He's my biggest cheerleader. He's my number one fan. He's who I can call with all the drama and he doesn't hang up. So
That's awesome.
I thought I want to share that with the world, right? Like, he's helping me all the time. I feel like he can help others as well.
Oh my God. I feel like he's helped me. And I feel like I should also say my wife is that person for me, but I'm pretty sure it's Drake. Hopefully she doesn't listen to this part.
Yeah. Sorry, Christina.
But that's great. Oh my gosh. Just the wisdom he imparts, everything. He's incredible. He's an awesome co-host. So I listened to one of your latest episodes, not the one that dropped today, but one of your latest episodes, it was in Houston, I believe. And are you originally from Chicago and moved to Houston, or were you visiting there? What's the connection with Houston and Chicago?
Okay, so actually I'm originally from Kentucky. I was born and raised in Louisville. And
is that how you say it?
Go Cards.
Louisville, there's lots of different pronunciations, but the home of the Kentucky Derby. My parents and grandparents all lived there throughout my childhood. My parents still live there. One set of my grandparents do. My other set migrated to Florida. And
awesome.
Yeah, I grew up knowing, my mom had me right out of high school. So I knew like my grandparents, my great grandparents. That's kind of the Kentucky way.
There you
go. The way that I got to Chicago was I worked for an NPR station in college and I thought I wanted to work in radio. And so at night I was making like air check tapes and sending them off. This is like really old school when the station was like, it was going from being run manually to automation. That's how old I am. Yeah. So
they had to like switch tapes and stuff?
Yes. And put in records and discs and the whole bit.
Oh,
and so,
like literally a disc jockey, like a real DJ was there.
Yeah,
That's
it was crazy. Yeah, I used to load all the features. And so I got an interview at WGN out of college and I didn't get the job. But while I was in Chicago, I saw that Jerry Springer was looking for interns the same trip.
Right.
So there was a flyer in that courtyard. I walked across from Tribune to NBC. I got through security. I got an interview with the intern coordinator, and I started 2 weeks later.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. Because I saw that. I mean, it was on your website and everything, but the Springer producer. And then from there, did you just like work your way up to that position? Because how do you go from intern to producer?
Yeah. So it was crazy. I mean, it was my first job out of college. I'm like new to the city, learning my way around the city with the guests, kind of listening to other people around me and how are they booking guests? How do you get the guests to actually get on stage and be crazy? And I was just a sponge. I was like, I want to do this. I can do this. And so I started emulating the people that were around me. I started making friends with the guests. I started seeing who makes a good guest, what are the stories that do the best. And then I got on the phone. And once I started being able to book those stories and get the people to come, that's how you rise the ranks. And so I went from intern to associate producer to producer in one season. And it was crazy.
That's badass. Yeah. Wow. Okay. That's super impressive. And yeah, I mean, it just makes sense. Like you have this voice and way of speaking on your podcast. It's so professional. Like I always say all the time, like, I'm like, truly feel like we're just three guys that hang out and make dumb jokes. But I listen to your podcast and I'm like, wow, she knows what she's doing. Yeah. Like that's good. Like you're professional. So I love that.
You sound professional to me. And to be honest, I think the more laid back and natural you can be, and that's another reason why I wanted my dad to be my co-host, because you need somebody you feel comfortable with. People want to feel like a fly on the wall in a real conversation. They don't want it to sound scripted. They don't want it to sound polished, right? Like they want to actually sound like they're a part of a real relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why I listen to the podcast I do, because it's just a normal conversation between two interesting people. And that's truthfully why I love it.
Wow.
So going back a little bit, so from there, how do we then get to Houston?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of stops in between. That's funny.
Okay, all right.
So I went from Chicago and then I moved to LA because there's not a whole lot of production in Chicago after you've worked for Springer and like Oprah's not going to hire me. So yeah, I moved to LA and didn't know anyone except for an ex-boyfriend. And he did help me get my first job though. So props to that guy.
Nice.
But yeah, I moved to LA and I got like a production coordinator role on a pilot. It was with the Kyoto brothers actually that we had talked about offline. So they were doing
the Team America police.
Yeah, the Team America guys. So they were doing a pilot for CNN. And they were making puppets of like Angelina Jolie and Saddam Hussein. And they were doing like a newscast from like the bathroom in Baghdad. And it was really funny. So they were doing like a puppet presentation of the news. Anyway, it didn't end up getting picked up, but it was really cool to be a part of that. And then after the pilot, they asked me if I wanted to be an executive assistant to their special effects animation company. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's amazing. Steady work for guys that have been in the industry for 30 years. I'm in, right? So I started off just answering their phones. I went from being a producer to an executive assistant to 3 producers, but these guys were like super connected and they were a family run business and they liked that I moved to LA with a dream of working in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. It shows so much gumption and risk and, just that you were going to go get it no matter what. You're like, hey, I'm going to try to make it work. And then you did.
And then these guys were like working with Disney and then they end up working on that with the guys from South Park to do Team America. And I started networking like crazy with all these puppeteers and SAG actors. And, I learned the accounts payable and receivable and how to do location scouting and all the business side of the film stuff that I didn't know.
Totally. And it's awesome to know, like, it's awesome to know you and that side of the business, because we're so much like, we're always analyzing different movies and shows. We're always on the outside looking in, right? We hear this actor did this or this producer did this, and we don't really know for sure. But I think it's really cool that you actually got to see how the sausage was made for each one of these shows, because it's not just, hey, we have this idea, go film it, chop it up, put it together, and boom, here it is. It's like there's so many other elements and parts to it that go in, and it's amazing that you got to experience that.
Yeah, that was crazy too, just to like see everything fabricated and see them cast the puppeteers and the rewrites of the script and all of the sign-offs and approval process and
Right.
the budgets, and that is a lot. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
too, just like being on set and seeing it filmed and all the retakes, and I mean, it was amazing to see that. And then at the same time, I have to say, like, they gave me kind of the freedom to I applied to other jobs to work in production on the side.
wow.
And
Oh,
wow.
actually I got an opportunity to work for VH1, and it was like an on the road show for like 6 weeks. And they let
Was
me
it
go.
road rules?
Well,
I wish.
I don't know why that's so hard to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was actually with an executive producer from The Real World and Road Rules, but it was a show.
gosh.
It's so funny. It was
Cool.
like one of those early car karaoke shows. It was like with clunky cameras in cars, and they had like one person would set up their friend, and
Yeah.
the friend would think that they were just driving around in this vehicle, and they were like had to fill out a survey afterwards of like what they thought of the music. But the thing is the person that set them up, like all of the music was tailored to their best friend's taste. So what happens when somebody drives around in a vehicle with all their favorite songs? They're going to do goofy shit, right? And so the car was rigged with cameras, and they're dancing and they're singing to people out the window. And then,
Oh my God, that's great.
yeah, like the friend gets in and then eggs them on to do like a challenge, like get out of the car and do a dance, sing to the person in the drive-through.
Oh
You
my
know.
gosh.
was that Motormouth?
Sorry, go for it.
Yes,
Drake.
it was Motormouth. Did you watch that?
I saw a couple of episodes on VH1, and I almost like a precursor to Punk'd, right? Because they would come out at the
Yes.
end and be like, "You've been Motormouthed."
Exactly.
Crazy.
That's an awesome catchphrase.
So
Yeah.
what was so much fun about that is I got to be a field interviewer. I got to be back on the production side, and I got to, talk to the people before they got in the vehicles. I'm like, what's your relationship with this person? What do you think you're getting ready to do? And then afterwards, how
Right.
did you think the reaction went, and did it go as expected? And I kind of learned like what sound bites they're looking for in putting together a show.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, which totally relates to what you're doing now. But was there any baiting that would go on when you were like meeting with these people beforehand? Were you like, hey, I heard you really like this song, or you really want to do this type of challenge? Like, I heard you want to run out on the corner and moon people. Is that true? Was there any of that going on, or was it like?
Not too
was-
much actually,
okay.
because we didn't want it to like unfold. It's the same thing with Springer too. Like you want some of it to like unfold naturally. And
Right.
I will say though, I worked on this other show where it was like a bunch of reality stars living in a house together, and they got the opportunity to star in like a Hollywood feature. It was an E show. It was called Kill Reality. There was like,
Wow, okay.
I don't know if you saw that one, but
It sounds familiar, but it had like Vern Troyer in it, or something like that.
no, it did have like Rob from Survivor and Johnny Fairplay, and
Okay.
so sometimes they wanted moments to happen, and they tried to bring people into the same room where things would happen,
Could.
and then
Yeah.
sometimes those things didn't unfold the way that they would want them to.
Right. Okay. Okay. That's good to know, because I feel like anytime I watch like the Jersey Shore or something, I'm like, did they just tell them to go talk to that girl that's obviously going to get them in trouble with their girlfriend back at home, or, stuff like that. I feel like there's no way that's real. Where if you ask my wife, I feel like the only real reality show, and even that's kind of getting pushed in a direction, is like Love Island. Like like in my wife's eyes, like The Bachelor's like completely scripted. You know what I mean?
It's become too formulaic, I have to say.
Right.
And look, I worked on Nanny 911 for 3 seasons. In the beginning, it's like they didn't really know the storyline. That's if you watch a show the first season, you're going to get a lot more raw moments. But like by the third
Yeah.
season, they kind of have worked out what they want it to be.
Totally. Yeah. And they know where the gems are going to come from, right? And now it's just lining those pieces up. That's awesome. That's so cool. Man, wow. That's such an interesting experience. I love it so much. Drake, I know we had another question. What was the first question that we had for that? We're kind of taking a step back now, and just through what you do with your podcast. Drake, do you want to ask her the first question?
Yeah, so it's more comic book orientated, but because your dad is like a very influential figure in your life. And for us, we have very influential comic book characters that have influenced us over the course of time. But if you had to choose a superhero or a character for fiction to be like your side dad, like who would it be and why?
Okay, so this question was actually hard, and I phoned a friend. I
All
actually
right.
talked to my husband about this, and my daughter, and my dad.
There you
And
go.
I actually liked the Darth Vader suggestion
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
nice.
okay.
All right.
because that dude like taps into the dark side, and you kind of know what you're getting with him, but also
It's
he's
true.
like, okay, he wears a mask.
Mm-hmm.
So he's covering up his fear, which is something so relatable,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like literally covering up the fear.
But he goes into the dark side and still is able to pull himself out from that. Some
Yeah,
people go to the
true.
dark side and like they fall in a hole and you can't climb out.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Like literally, the only person that's able to pull him out of it is his kids.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the whole time he's evil up until that moment of his son Luke saying, "Hey, you can be good. You can be better than what you think you are." So yeah, I agree. There's
interesting.
that element too. That's an interesting one. Yeah, I was trying to think through this too, and I was like, Darth Vader, I'm like, ooh, that's like such a dark and twisted choice.
Yeah.
I love it. But I'm also like, Mufasa? Like, he was a pretty
Mufasa.
good dad.
Yeah.
Like Nemo, like Finding Nemo's dad. I don't know what Nemo's dad's name is. I only know that he was Nemo's dad and he was searching for him the whole time.
Yeah.
I thought he might be a pretty good
It's a little
dad.
bit overbearing, but yeah.
He was a little over. That's true. That's true.
Darth Vader
yeah,
makes
Drake,
a lot
go.
of sense though, because if we go back into like watching the series, either whether it's Clone Wars when he's actually Anakin Skywalker or when he's actually in the first three original movies that we saw in like the late '80s, the only thing that keeps him grounded at the end of the day is his family. Whether it's Padme, whether it's Luke, and it's Leia, and to see the same coming from Kentucky, having known your grandparents, your great grandparents, like that makes a lot of sense. Like the family is grounding, keeps you pretty much centered. Even though he may stray to the dark side a little bit, he still has that pulling him back to the good side.
There you go.
Yes.
That's a great tie. Do you think did your dad want you to say Darth Vader? Was he like, that's pretty cool, I want to be like associate me with Darth Vader? Or was
Yeah, he actually liked that.
nice.
And so did my
Nice.
husband.
Oh,
I mean, it's such a badass choice. Every guy thinks they want to be Luke, but if you had the option, you kind of
Yeah.
want to be Vader, because you can do whatever you want and get things done, and just you'll do whatever it takes to kind of fulfill your will. There's like a weird part of men that I think want that. I think in some ways, I don't know.
I feel like
That's
he's
weird.
more relatable.
yeah,
Like you know what you're getting with him.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, there's less.
He doesn't waver.
Yeah, there's less diversion from who he is in that character course up until the last movie. You're so true. Damn. Well, we've like broken down Darth Vader now.
Yeah, I know.
All right, nerds out there. There you go. We figured out Darth Vader for you if you have not.
Darth
I
Vader.
just listened to your last episode about Hulk.
About the Hulk. Which one? How did it go? I'm trying to think.
I feel like you brought up daddy issues with the Hulk.
Oh my God. That's probably true. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm blanking on that now, but there's got to be so many daddy issue moments with the Hulk trying to escape who he was and where he came from and his abuse. Yada, yada. Okay, we're getting off track.
Yeah.
All right.
Dads are important.
Dads are important. Yes, exactly. As much as, yeah.
And if you
we
don't
wanna get
have
away
one,
from
you
it.
can borrow mine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Better call daddy.
exactly. Or yeah, listen to it for sure. You will feel like you're getting all the best dad advice in the world for sure. Another question for you. Okay, so is there a movie or show that you and your dad is like your movie? Like you guys together, you're like, I love watching it, but I especially love watching it with him.
That's so funny. I mean, this is going to sound probably funny, but we did watch Dirty Dancing like a bunch of times.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
There you go.
And my dad, oh my God, like with one of my past guests, like she was talking about like how into salsa she was and moving her body and how that like gets her out of depression. And my dad was like, I like to celebrate good times. Come on. I like to move my body. I was like, okay, that is like funny and borderline inappropriate.
Yeah. You're like, Dad,
I'm
love
like,
it.
are
And
you
also,
talking
like, I
about
hate
her
it.
somatic techniques or?
Right.
The
What do we-
undulations.
Yeah. Well, let's not get too descriptive about this.
Oh,
No,
sorry,
that's
sorry.
great. I love that movie. No. I love that movie, and it's Swayze at his finest, and just all the things. Like, as you could tell, like, I'm really big into like the behind the scenes things that make these movies and shows, created, and what Swayze had to go through to make it with just injury, and what it had to go through to actually be produced, and oh my gosh, it was so crazy. It's such a good movie. It's yeah.
I've
I don't know.
actually been to part of the set of that movie. I went to summer camp in North Carolina, and they drove us by the famous staircase where she does that like seductive walk up the stairs.
Yeah.
And
oh my gosh.
like I had seen the movie so many times, I could like picture myself doing that there.
That's great. Yeah. Did they let you get out for a second, or was it literally just driving through?
Unfortunately, we just stayed on the bus. But yeah, I loved that movie. I loved Patrick Swayze. I can't tell you how many times I would like rewind him getting out of bed, hoping that maybe I could see his full body.
Full frontal. I get it.
He was hot. Like everybody wanted to date him in that. And I feel like too, they're still trying to kind of remake that dance scene. I mean, it's a classic. Didn't they just recently remake the movie?
Yeah, I think so. I want to say within the last 10 years, but it's like, why remake a classic like that?
Yeah.
You know, it's
Nothing
for me, it would be
compares to
like,
that.
totally. It'd be like if somebody tried to remake Ferris Bueller. It's like, don't touch that movie.
Yeah,
it's
don't do
perfect. Like, don't touch it. But we even, so I only got married recently, but there was a point, that's like one of my wife's favorite movies too. And she was like, do you think in our first dance, like you could hold me up like that? I'm like, hell no, I'm not doing that. I am not going to like risk that and drop you in front of all of our guests. And then I look like this terrible husband and it's just, So, oh my gosh. Yeah. I wish I could do it, but I have no faith in myself like Swayze did.
Oh, Swayze.
Yeah.
I think my husband would love to try to pick me up like that in water, but I think in water it's probably safer than on land.
Totally. I was just thinking of the end where he's holding his hands up like this and she's above him. Like, I can't do that. I got bad
Yeah.
shoulders.
Swayze was doing
That's
a lot of
not
pull-ups
happening.
back in the day, so he's strong.
Yeah, exactly.
Congratulations on getting married.
Oh, thank you. Yep. It's been good. It's been really good, and she's killing it. Shout out to my wife, Christina. So thanks for that. Let's see. So, Drake, we have another question for you.
Yes,
And sorry if this is like, we're not really like an interview show. We want to keep it more conversational, but you just had such amazing experiences. Like, I feel like we had to ask these things. So, yep, Drake, if you want to take it away.
Going off of that, like, I did a little bit of like creeper deep diving on you on the IMDb's and the LinkedIn's.
Tell her how you really feel.
I mean, I went deep. And so much experience, right? On the precipice of like reality TV, on the precipice of comedies like, Team America. In all of the amazing professional experiences you've had, what is one of the craziest episodes or stories you have, whether it's from Springer or whether it's from other shows you produced, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, so one story that I feel like helped me get promoted from associate producer to producer was this 14-year-old girl that called in, and this is how we used to cast even.
Word.
People called 1-800-96-JERRY and left a
Like a
message.
voicemail?
That's how we got the majority of the guests when I worked there. This girl, she didn't even say her name. Like a lot of times, they would say their name.
Right.
So the message just said like, girl 14 years old caught her grandmother in bed with her 18-year-old boyfriend. And I was like, oh my God, like that's golden.
Wow.
And so I called her. She was like super soft spoken and it was true. And
my
I like
goodness.
became her best little friend. And, that's what it took. Like you really had to become best friends with the person who called because that person has to rope in everybody else in the story to come in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just tried to like really hear her and, make her feel seen. Like, this is what everybody wants, right? And she got her grandmother to come. Her mom had just gotten out of prison and she slept with them too. And I got the
What?
18-year-old punk boyfriend to all agree to coming.
Man.
That
Yeah.
story, like,
Whoa,
literally
whoa, whoa.
went the
That was like
entire
a weird way to
show.
end that sentence. Sorry.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Sorry, never mind. Sorry, you said coming, and I made a really
Yeah.
terrible,
Oh.
He
inappropriate
came in a
joke.
lot of places.
So good I talked over you.
Yeah,
No.
Yeah. No, sorry,
Dang.
that was terrible. Anyways, continue.
So yeah, I got that whole family to come, and Jerry, his show just finally ended after like 20 something years. And in the
Yeah.
best of 20 years or whatever, that story was
was on-
in there.
Wow.
Oh my God, they
is
used that
crazy.
episode. That's crazy.
So I was like, damn, I felt really cool. Like, I booked that before I was even a producer.
Wow.
right.
Was
I mean, once. Oh, sorry.
I was
going to
say, was the boyfriend super handsome, or what's the deal with that? How did that go around?
That's a good question.
God bless this kid. I mean, he was just
had game.
kind of like a hillbilly,
Wow.
you know? And the grandma was like 51. The
Oh.
mom was like, or 59. The mom was like early 40s. And then the daughter was 14. So it's not like they were so old. I think
Yeah.
he had had a couple drinks. The grandmother
Right.
kind of lured him in. She
Oh,
was like,
wow.
hey, can you give me a back rub in the shower? I mean, who asked for that?
Wow. Yeah.
You know?
That'll do it.
Sure, Grandma.
Yeah.
Sure, I got it.
Yeah. I ask for a back rub in the shower all the time. It never happens. So, yeah, good for grandma.
Yeah, good for Grandma. Good
That's
for her.
awesome.
She's really taking charge
Yeah.
of what she wants. I get it.
The title of that was My Grandma Stole My Man. If you want to go Google that.
100%.
Okay, yeah,
That
totally
is what
gonna
I'm
do that,
doing
yeah.
after
Drop
this.
that
for
in the
sure.
show notes.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my God, that's incredible. Yeah, that one will stick out to you for sure. It's like, how could you forget that? Where do you go from there? Like, once that's, one of your breakout episodes, it's like, are you nervous at that point that I'm never going to be able to top that?
You know what's so funny about that? So after I interviewed Jerry Springer himself on my podcast, I felt that way. I literally felt
okay.
that way. I was like, oh my God, I'm done. Like, that good enough. I was like, that was the whole reason I started the show. Like,
Right.
how am I
I
going
hit
to
the
do better
precipice.
than that? But you know what?
Totally.
He was so human and so normal and so, like, I don't know. I just realized
Yeah, just
after that,
relatable.
he was so relatable and so down to earth and so real. And he was like, Reena, I know you. Like, I knew you when you were a little girl. Like, he knew me when I was 21 years old.
Right.
And he was so
Yeah.
cool and so, yeah, like, I can't even tell you. That experience was like such closure for me that I was like, okay, like, I don't even need celebrities now. Like, I can honestly just talk to people that fascinate me and I can have
Right.
real conversations and I'm good. Like, if a couple celebrities come along, awesome. Like, I interviewed Judge Alex, who I ended up working for, one of the nannies from
Right.
Nanny 911. It was amazing to catch up with them. But yeah, Jerry was
Yeah.
kind of like my Katie Couric, I was like,
Totally. Yeah. I
I'm good
know.
now. Now I can just, like you said, I can talk to my best friend, my dad. I can have special time with my dad. I can talk to interesting people, and everything else is just cherry on top.
Totally. And I think what's great, and correct me if I'm wrong, if this isn't even what you were thinking, but it's like you kind of learn maybe through your experience that everybody does have a story to tell. And
Yes.
it doesn't really matter what their platform is or
Yes.
where they're from. They can have potentially a really exciting, amazing story.
Yeah.
And now you get to bring that out in people who, don't have as big of a platform or who may not be
Exactly.
as discoverable. That's how I've heard
I
it.
absolutely love that. I mean, I had this guy on my show too who had been developing his audience since 2014 and he had never told his daddy story, and his daddy story was insane. And then he shared it to his audience that he's been building since 2014, and I swear to God, overnight I got like 50,000 downloads, and you just never know when that's
Wow.
going to happen.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
you
Was
know
that
what
the
I mean?
Unicorn Universe one?
That was Johnny Spoiler.
Should I spoil it? Oh, okay. Right on.
Yeah,
I got to
and-
go back and listen to that one too.
Yeah,
That's great.
it's just, and then too, it's like you have highs and lows, and you're just like, but am I touching people? Am I giving people a chance that they might not have any other way? Right. And like,
Yeah,
who are
absolutely.
the people that the universe or God or my dad's crossing paths with that are coming to me? And I really
Yeah.
pay attention to that. Like, I feel like the people that come my way, for the most part, are there for a reason and there to like help me grow.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that. Like, I feel like everybody is there for a reason or the season, right? And it's like
Yes.
you can learn out of that, and it just depends on how you look at it and approach the relationship, because not everybody needs everything. Some people, just want to be able to share their story, and some people want back rubs in the shower, and then you just try to get that.
Thanks,
and thanks, crap. And then you go from there. So, yeah, I agree.
Oh, I would love for that grandma to hear this and find me, or the 14-year-old.
Yeah. I
Hey,
mean,
I'm
if I was
putting that
single,
out
I'd like her
there
to
'cause it
find me
might
too.
happen.
Hey.
It might happen. I mean,
Definitely.
there are stories like in my life, though. I mean, I will say one reason why I decided to keep pushing for Springer, like I got a yes, I got a no, I got a yes, I got a maybe. It took me a year and a half to get that guy on my show. I had kept in
Oh,
touch with his
wow.
publicist for 20 years, and it
That's
was not
incredible.
easy. Yeah. But like there's a girl that I went to summer camp with, and this is crazy. She got murdered, and her and I had been like pen pals for years. Like I had
Oh my
a
gosh.
drawer full of letters from this chick, and her mom's been on like Dr. Phil, and I tried to like connect with her through Facebook. It's never happened, but I'm like, that would be an interesting story. Like, hey, I have all these pictures of me and your daughter from summer camp and like matching bikinis. Like, I never
Yeah.
shared them with you. Like, there's so many stories or experiences in your life that are just particular to your existence that you can track down. Like, I helped this nonprofit in town in Chicago, and my husband was a part of the nonprofit where they teach like stop the bleed training, and they
Yeah.
teach concealed carry to people in synagogues so that people can be safe.
Wow,
And then
that's
they were
incredible.
interviewing this guy, Oscar Stewart, episode 193, who stopped the shooting in Poway, California. And
Oh, wow.
since I had
That's
helped them with a
incredible.
live stream before as like a volunteer thing of like giving back to this organization, they asked me if I would interview him live in front of some Chicago Police Department people. And I was like, I'd be honored to. And so my podcast went from being like an audio show and an occasional video segment to, wow, I get to do this in front of an audience. Like I never would have expected that, just from like
Yeah.
giving back to the community. So by continuing to better your skills and having the right intention, you just never know where your show can go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just-
yeah. I sorry, Drake.
Oh
go
no,
for
I was
it.
gonna say deep admiration for what you've been doing, whether it's like adjacently or directly. Like a lot of people who are suffering from mental illness, a lot of it is because they think they don't have purpose. But just like you said, everybody has a story. It matters, and in ways that they might not even realize. And for individuals like yourself to just sit and listen and accept. If we had more of that, there'd be less of that mental health situation. And so glad you're doing the good work right now.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, I totally appreciate that. And to be perfectly honest, like I felt super isolated during the pandemic, and I needed it for my mental health. Like I am an extrovert, and I used to even help produce in-person events. And part of the reason I wanted to do it was to, keep my skills fresh, but at the same time, like to connect with people that I have interest in, and to catch up with people that have made a difference in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of where this whole thing started for us. We were, all separated, and it wasn't like we were going outside and interacting with people. We started gaming online, and then I'm like, some of the stuff we talk about is kind of funny. I wouldn't say I'm funny, but some of it's kind of funny, and we kind of have a flow or like a chain of events. Let's just record it, and we turned that into a podcast, and it was a Frankenstein episode.
It was bad.
And it was terrible.
Yeah.
Like we even took it down because I'm like, I can't play it. The audio is so shitty in this. Like there's no way we could use this. But here we are, 67 episodes later, 1 year into it now, and it's like something I just look forward to. And it's kind of blossomed into this thing that we've kind of built together, and I just want to, just kiss these guys and hug them and love on them because we did it together.
Yeah.
This is our baby.
Yeah, I mean,
So it's been great.
We've never really had an issue with making people laugh, and much like what you do with
for yourself.
you and your dad, Thomas is a very underrated communicator. Like when he was in high school, everybody liked Thomas, wanted to be his friend, et cetera, et cetera. That going into college, even when he was in situations where he was less accessible, he was still making a lot of jokes and trying to bring the crowd in. And so for us, if you can come on and talk story and you can laugh, like that's, I think, what we can give and what we can provide. And, talking about all these other things is just adjacent, but these small little things matter. And that's kind of the background importance that we, even though we just stick around and talk story and have fun on the pod, like, if we can make somebody laugh, that's worth it for us.
Okay, I have something that I think will make you laugh. So when I first launched the show, I had booked one of the VPs, I think, at Manscaped at an event that
Nice.
I was working on. And so I had that connection, and I knew that they sponsored different podcasts. And I was like, hey, I'm getting ready to launch a podcast with some controversial guests, which is something I thought I would try in the beginning because I like to cast those kinds of stories.
Sure.
And so then I told him some of the guests that I had in mind, like a KKK guy and a Jeffrey Epstein survivor. And they were like,
Whoa.
interested in the Jeffrey Epstein survivor. And then like at the time I didn't really like put together the fact that it might be weird to read a Manscaped ad for a Jeffrey Epstein survivor.
I mean, it would be hilarious though. It would be hilarious.
So I totally did that. And my dad was like, I'm not going to like advertise something unless I try it first. So I was like, okay, Dad. So like they sent my dad like Manscaped products, and I like talked about that with my father, which was also like, I don't know if that's borderline cool or weird, right?
No, you guys
and
are
he
open.
like
That's
sent
tight.
me a picture of himself in like Manscaped briefs, and he doesn't like know how to take shots like you would use on Instagram. It was kind of
There
like
you go.
up
There
in
was
his
no
belly.
Instagram footage.
Wow.
Okay.
Top
okay.
down.
Oh,
I was
Top
like,
down.
Dad,
But
I'm like creeped out by this, and I'm not sharing that.
Yeah. Delete it from the servers.
hey, you have like one of the most smooth and hairless dads out there,
Yeah,
though.
I
So
mean,
that's nice.
Thanks, Manscaped.
Use the code Daddy25. I think it's still active.
There you go, for sure. Wow. Okay, that's amazing.
Guarantee 25 inches of smooth skin.
Whoa. Okay.
And
Is
that's
your
the
dad
thing,
Ron
too.
Jeremy?
Heyo.
Jeez. No, but anyways, yeah.
I was just going to say, like, after that, it led to sponsors that I felt like were a better fit. And it's cool to launch a show with sponsors. But yeah, if you're going to do sponsors, or you're going to do like feed drops, or you're going to do podcast swaps, you got to think about big picture of these things. Like, is
So
it really
true.
your brand?
Totally. I agree with you, because we're such small picture people. We haven't really started thinking about that. So we'll see where this goes. You know,
Tune in.
No, honestly, like, you have all this amazing experience, and what you're doing now is incredible. I think to bring it back to kind of more of the themes of our show, what was some of the things that you gravitated towards during the pandemic? As far as like, I'm sure you're watching more movies, more shows. Has anything come out in the last few years, or something that you've been keeping up with that you've really liked, or that's been really like engaging for you, that you want to talk to your friends about or family about?
Oh man, there's been so many interesting subjects that I never would have even thought of myself that like just came my way because I'm covering men's issues, right? So
Sure.
I had a guy reach out to me, and his pitch was something like, do you know that most men fear women? And I was
I
like, that's
listened to that one.
such an interesting perspective. I really
Totally.
loved that, actually. And he was just like talking about what it is to be pussy whipped. And I was like, I, as a woman, never would have thought of covering that, but
Totally.
what an interesting subject. And then, you know, I had a sperm donor dad reach out to me, and he was like a sperm donor dad to like 23 children. And what's funny is that my mom quit having kids at like 26. She was done. She had 3 by then and was like, that's it, you know? And
Totally.
my dad thought like he wanted more kids, and he thought about, you know, donating his stuff. And then after interviewing that guy, my dad was like, wow, like maybe I was thinking about doing that purely for ego. Like,
Right.
so it was interesting to hear like his perspective. He's had some perspective changes on the show.
No, totally. It's your dad has had some perspective
Yeah,
changes.
my dad's had some perspective changes. There's another
wow.
woman who I produced a healthcare podcast in Chicago. It was live in person, and we interviewed people like nursing home owners and operators, directors of rehabilitation, nurses, a bunch of healthcare heroes during the pandemic. And some of the best guests from that show I took for my own show because I was like, hey,
Yeah,
I'll keep in touch
absolutely.
with some of the good ones. And so I interviewed a OBGYN, and that was interesting to talk to my dad about. And then I interviewed somebody about abortion, which, you know, he
Yeah,
was
that could
kind
be
of old
touchy.
school in his thinking, but actually he met that woman in person and really liked her as a person. And then when he heard her circumstances, it made him feel differently about his thoughts.
Wow, man, that is really incredible. And it's so cool that he's willing to go to those areas with you. I don't know if those are areas I want to go with my dad. You know, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I would want to talk to him about that. But it's just amazing that he's open to hearing that and to engaging with you in that way. And the other thing I was thinking was like, you're going to have this amazing record between these conversations with you and your dad. And yeah, it's so cool. That's something like I feel like with us, which is awesome, even though again, we skew towards maybe more nerdy pop culture kind of thing sometimes. It's like I have this amazing record of the way we were thinking, the way we were feeling, and the way I was engaging with some of my best friends. Yeah. And that's so great. Like it's going to be awesome for us to have this record to share with our kids or future generations or whoever in the future. I like that.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you one more special one. My dad begged me to do this.
Okay.
He put earbuds on his mom when he was like helping take care of her in Florida. And that was almost 3 years ago. And now she can't tell her story in the same way because like dementia has kind of set in. So I have like my grandma telling some of her great stories on my podcast and my dad reacting to that. And then also he found a tape of his dad when he was like cleaning out either his house or his factory. And I had converted a cassette recording to an MP3. So I have an episode of my grandmother and my grandfather and my dad kind of narrating in between. So that also was like super special.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God. How many people can say they have something like that?
Yeah, not very many.
Yeah, I mean, that's so incredible. And just to have that record and the thoughts between what their family members were thinking between it's just so crazy.
Generational perspective. That's
totally.
And that's what I really, like want to bring to the world is that, you know, I've had interns that are half my age and have booked amazing stories. I have included my children in some of the questions that we ask the guests. I've had my husband do a reaction or two because he's also a dad, right? And I've brought my grandmother and even my grandparents have sent me guests. Like we need that intergenerational wisdom. Like I feel like in today's generation, we're like spread out all over the place. Like I grew up with all four of my grandparents. That was instrumental in who I am today. And I think that we need that still. Like I want my kids to have a close relationship with my dad. And I guess part of why I'm doing this podcast, even like you said, is a time capsule for them. Like they can see how my dad would have responded to different subjects that they're going to be interested in later.
Yeah. Whoa. Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Deeper with daddy.
Deeper with daddy. Here's a pop culture one though. I did just interview a guy who did a documentary called Being Robin. And it was a love letter to Robin Williams. So that was a nationwide release. And he was on the Carol Burnett show. And he's a Hollywood impersonator. That was, it kind of honestly reminded me of my time on Team America and seeing the puppeteers who become puppets.
Right. Because they're animating along with the puppet.
He becomes who he impersonates.
Wow.
It's insane.
I instantly gravitated toward that one because, I mean, me and Drake I think we've said in the show numerous times how big of fans we were of Robin Williams. Yeah. I mean, he was so instrumental in our childhood and all the different characters and hello from Mrs. Doubtfire and all that stuff. It was like, I'm like such a huge fan of Robin Williams and just the way he approached his comedy and movies and all that stuff. It was... Yeah, so that was a great episode. Highly recommend everybody out there to go listen to that one too, because he's a very interesting guy, and what he did was a very interesting project. I want to watch that movie now.
Yeah, I watched it.
Awesome. So sorry, not to bring it back. What have you? Because I know it sounds like you don't have a ton of time, right? You have all these kids you're taking care of. You have your podcast. You have other professional endeavors that you're doing. You know, you're a wife. You have all these amazing things that you're working on. What have you been watching? What have you been reading? What movies,
Recently,
shows?
I did binge watch Dahmer, and the whole family, except for the 3-year-old, watched it, which is
Oh, really?
interesting.
Everybody ate it up?
I feel bad that I let my kids watch it. I mean, I even talked to a news reporter at CBS or NBC, and he was like, I would not let my kids, but he also covers a lot of crime in Chicago. He was like, I wouldn't let my kids watch that, but it was number 1 on Netflix.
Yeah.
I was like,
I know.
everybody is watching it. I mean, that actor was
Yeah.
Yeah, Evan
amazing.
Peters.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Whoa,
Drake, you watched it, right?
and I knew somebody from Chicago that
What?
her brother was one of the victims.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well,
Is that
yeah.
another interview? Because I want to listen to that.
I don't even think she would talk about
okay.
it. They're definitely one of the families
Oh
that
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't
Yep.
think is
Yeah.
happy that it came out. And that is also interesting. I would love to either interview like somebody that was in court and was like yelling at Dahmer. That chick was amazing. Or I'd love to interview like the neighbor Glenda. Was that her
Oh
name?
yeah.
Oh my God. The one that tried to call. That's like,
Yeah,
dude, my neighbor
dude.
is a freaking murderer. Like, what is wrong with you, policemen?
I
Yeah.
know. It smells terrible next
Yeah.
door. He is freaky. I hear screaming.
I hear
Yeah.
drills.
Nobody comes. Yeah, drills. Nobody comes to investigate this.
Dang.
Not one. Nobody. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, that's crazy.
I'll just
Yeah.
stay put. Yeah.
Right.
He's not going to kick me out of this home.
Yeah. I was here first. Damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. What are your kids like? If you don't mind sharing some of that, what are they interested in? Like,
What are they interested in? So my 10-year-old is interested in GTA.
Oh yep. All day.
Word up, love it.
Tried to play that with him. I am not sure the obsession with it. He's new to it, but he has a friend that plays it with him too.
Oh, totally.
And his friend is better at it than him, so he comes and finds him and like rescues him from getting beat up.
Yeah.
Nice. There you go. And there's like, I mean, we have friends who their kids are 7, 8, and that's what they do, and they watch like YouTubers just play that game.
Yeah.
It like blows my mind.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, we could be one of those people that people just watch us when we play games.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, except for I like to think we have better things to say, but still, it could just be that.
Yeah.
You know,
Isn't
that's
that crazy? Like literally, yeah. So my oldest, the 14-year-old, like he was so into Minecraft and like
Oh my, yeah.
yeah, he would just watch people play that for hours
yeah.
and comment, and that to me is crazy. And he started recording himself doing it, and then he was able to interact with some of these big influencers. Like
Yeah.
that is what
Man.
kids are doing now. And
know.
he created his own YouTube channel. He created his own thumbnails. He created his own music, and he's super creative. So I was like, I'm getting this game. I'm going to get him a gaming PC. Like
Yeah.
you enable
There you
those
go.
talents, right?
Yeah.
You're like, these are tools that kids need to be able to. And I was like, maybe I'll let it my stuff.
right.
Yeah. Help
That's
me
an
out, help
added
me
little
out.
bonus to me,
Yeah.
sure. Definitely. Is there, you know, this is kind of deviating from what we were going to talk about, but like, I'm just so curious. What's your take on like modern pop culture for your kids? Like, do you think things are moving in the right direction? Do you think like moving?
Okay, that's a
'cause-
great question. So, two things. One, like, I don't think it's good for girls because of the negative body image stuff. Like, my
Okay.
daughter is constantly on TikTok seeing all these girls that are
Right.
filtered and are professionally shooting their videos and
like the Addison Rays and the
Yeah.
what's the other one? The
So many of them.
what's her name?
D'Amelio, Charlie D'Amelio.
Yeah, wow, I was gonna butcher that.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah,
for
yeah.
saving me there.
And like,
Yeah.
she's got about 500 drafts on TikTok that I won't let her publish because I'm worried about, you know, things that people could say or her not getting
Right.
enough likes or her questioning, you know, her
Yeah.
own
Sure.
body or
Yeah.
any of that. And, you know, I even have a cousin who I helped get through the first round of America's Got Talent. And now she's in her
Damn.
early 20s and she's putting pictures of herself on the internet in bra and underwear. And I'm just like, you can't erase this stuff.
No.
Totally.
And, you know, I worry about human trafficking. I'm in
Yeah,
Texas.
yeah.
I get like Amber Alerts all the damn time. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I am concerned about it for girls. I mean, I guess it could happen to guys as well, but I feel like it's less.
Sure, and maybe in different ways, right? I
Yeah.
mean, and maybe not in the same way. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I know, because we kind of just try to stay away from like controversy. We're not very political on here, but we just try to analyze what these shows and movies are giving us, right? Like,
But here's
this
another
is-
thing. Like, I had this
Yeah.
guest on my show. I don't know if you saw this one. It was about cyberbullying leading to suicide. And
No.
there was a kid in Chicago who switched schools during the pandemic because he wanted to join a basketball team and he wanted to be in person. And the prep school that he was at, the charter school that he was at, wasn't back in person yet. And so he switched to this, like, very well known school in Chicago. And he was bullied and called an anti-vaxxer, and
Whoa.
the whole basketball team like wrote him and Snapchatted him all these really horrible messages, which he was able to screenshot. They do disappear, but
Yeah.
they
Right.
basically said to him, "You either kill yourself or we're going to kill you."
What the?
And the kid
Jeez.
was 14 years old and he hung himself. And the thing is when you write messages like that, who is accountable for that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And-
So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and there's such a young age, it's like we're going to make so many mistakes on the way through life.
Yeah.
And it makes mistakes like that could possibly affect somebody that badly or end someone's life.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you go on with your life from there? Or, yeah, it's just it's a lot of stress. It's a
Yeah.
lot of
look
stress,
at all
a lot
these
of pressure.
news stories
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
all of these shootings that are happening too. And like, what message does that send to
Yeah.
our kids?
This brings this currently.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's crazy. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, because I don't have kids yet, and Drake doesn't have kids yet, and yeah, we watch these things that Disney puts out. We're watching the newest Marvel movies
Yeah.
or the newest DC movies or this show, that show, and we can break it down and rationalize what it's trying to show us and tell us
Yeah.
about the story, about characters, about the human experience. But yeah, it's interesting to hear from you because you're
Yeah.
tied to these kids who are so impressionable, I guess, at this age,
Yes.
and also like, what we think is just a fun escape for the night or whatever could be, a life-altering experience for them. That's interesting to hear it from
I
your
will say
side.
too, I had a high schooler reach out to me about the Oscar Stewart story. He felt like that story hadn't really gotten enough coverage, and so he was doing his like high school paper on it. And so
Yeah.
he interviewed me for interviewing Oscar Stewart. I was like, that's amazing. Like, he literally Googled Oscar Stewart, saw that I had done an episode with him. So that is a good part of technology.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
absolutely.
just reached out to me on social, was like, hey, I'm not going to be able to reach that guy, but you did. I
Yeah.
would love to know what you learned from him. So I think that's really cool.
By the way, you're
and my
a
daughter
great...
loves like a makeup artist on Instagram, and she said, well, on Instagram she's like totally not reachable, so I found her on another platform and she added me.
Nailed it.
That's
So
crazy.
that's cool.
Yeah.
So cool. By the way, you're really funny on Twitter as well, too. So, yeah, I highly suggest everybody to go follow you because you're just really funny too. You post some really hilarious stuff. So that
Thank
side of it
you.
is also great because I get a laugh as well as listen to your awesome
Yeah.
podcast. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, I don't know, Drake. Do you have anything else
No,
to kind of add in
I
there?
agree. Like a lot of the narratives that are happening, whether it's media or social media, like I know we talked about it on our podcast, but there's a lot of justified murdering, whether that's in a superhero movie
it's terrifying.
or in Dahmer, right? It's justified for that character. And if you connect with that character, you can connect with the justification. And that could be extremely negative in the long term. But also through your eyes of Better Call Daddy and viewing perspective, it's good to have that perspective. But sometimes we're only getting one side of it, and that can be also damaging.
My daughter just came in here. Do you want to make a cameo?
Ooh.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Come say hi. Do you want to say anything about social media? Here's my
Hi.
little gorgeous
Yeah.
star. Hold on.
Come on in.
Hi. It's just an audio podcast, so you
It's
put on my
just
lap. She's
audio.
still
Hello. How are you?
Yeah.
Good. So, on our show, we talk a lot about pop culture and movies and shows. What's something that you've been watching or whether it's movie, show, YouTube that you've been hooked to lately?
I like horror movies.
Oh, yeah?
Wow, I was not
Okay,
expecting
yeah,
that.
did not expect that, yeah.
Dark. What's the latest horror movie that you're like, this is super cool?
On Saturday night, I watched Leatherface.
Oh, wow. That's
Dang.
super gory.
Yeah, I was too scared to watch that,
Yeah.
so kudos to you. That's amazing.
Are you excited
Right
for Smiling, that new horror movie that's coming out pretty soon?
Yeah, Smile.
Or yeah.
This time.
It's
I
creepy.
watched that.
You watched it?
Oh, you
about
watched
the
What did you
makeup did
think?
for Halloween?
I did Harley Quinn.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's like right up our alley.
DC
We're
all
like
day.
comic books, DC, exactly. And I don't know if your mom is cool with it, but there's an awesome show on HBO Max called Harley Quinn,
Yeah.
and it's super funny.
Super hilarious.
You should check that
Up
out.
your alley for sure.
Right on. Definitely. Well, right on. Your mom has said a lot of amazing things about you. You sound super talented. You got an awesome mom. We love her show. We also love your grandpa. And so you're very, very lucky. And I'm sure you already know that. But yeah, thanks for coming on and saying hi.
Tell
Perfect.
everybody that they should subscribe to the Joy Schtick podcast. And
Yeah.
rate it 5 stars.
Yeah. That'd be great.
Please. That'd be great.
Say it in there.
The Joy Schtick Show.
Okay, everybody subscribe to the Joy Schtick podcast.
Yay.
Thank you,
There
thank you.
go.
Appreciate that.
Thank
Rate it
you.
5 stars.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
Please.
Nicely done. Oh my gosh.
Okay, I'll be done in a second.
Yeah. Okay. When is I'll let you put your headphones back on. All right. When's she available? She wants to talk Harley Quinn. We got an open hour sometime.
She want to
We
start
can schedule
jujitsu
it in.
or
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, super rad. I mean, she like what a cute kid, but also dang horror movies.
yeah.
I was
didn't
not
expect
expecting that.
Yeah, they
That was
all
different.
love that.
Was there like
That's
an
awesome.
inception of? Do we know what the first horror movie hooked her to horror movies?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm gonna have to find out now.
Yeah,
that's a great question.
Yeah, especially to come from like someone that age. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was not
Probably the
expecting
older
that.
brother.
Oh yeah, just watch it with
She
me.
has
yeah.
3 brothers.
Oh wow.
Oh, there you go. That's what you want. You want 3 brothers around the daughter.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well,
She's
hey, Reena.
good. Yeah.
yeah. She's got like 3 linemen just blocking
Yeah,
for her.
yeah.
That's perfect. Reena, we don't want to take up too much of your time. We're so thankful to have you on, obviously. Can you recommend 3 episodes? I mean, you've already recommended so many episodes, but 3 episodes for you kind of embody what your show is about and that you're like, hey, just check out these 3 or this one so you get an idea of our podcast. Do you have any of those off the top of your head?
Yeah, so episode 210 is my interview with Jerry Springer.
Oh,
and I
duh.
have to say, yeah, that
Nice.
is one that made it worth it.
Perfect.
Jason,
And-
all day.
Yeah, it was just like 20 years catching up with
Right.
him. Like, amazing. I felt like after that interview that like God granted me that. It was crazy.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, yeah, for me, I don't know who Drake's top interviewer is, but like mine, a lot of people probably don't even know who this is. Maybe people who watch our show or listen to our show, but it's like, I want to like interview Kevin Smith and I want to interview
Yeah.
like Chris Evans, like,
Those kinds of peeps, yeah.
yeah, just straight comic book nerds would be fantastic for me. So, yeah, but we will definitely have to listen to that one. Reena, thank you so much. Your podcast, again, is incredible. No doubt. I mean, I've already gone. I subscribe to it. Me and my wife are
Aw.
listening to episodes. It really is like, it's like, you have guests on, you're like, well, I really like your show. But like, I'm not joking. I do really like your show. I'm going to be listening to more and more episodes. Thank you so much. Drake, I don't know if you have any final words, and then we're going to have the floor for you and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Drake.
Thank you, Reena, for so much for coming on. My wife, unfortunately, doesn't have any daddies, so I've turned her on to your Better Call Daddy podcast, and she's been listening to it for a bit.
This is so dark and
yeah, I
sad.
know it's dark and sad, but also super helpful. So thank you.
Oh my gosh. Well, if she, wants to borrow my dad or has a question for him, please let me know.
All day. Thank you very much.
Yeah, don't worry. She's not like that grandma from that one
Yeah,
episode.
yeah,
You'll
yeah.
be fine.
Yeah.
Oh
Right
my
on.
gosh. Yeah. So another crazy story is I used to work for Kathy Heller, host of Don't Keep Your Day Job. And my dad is like an old school marketer. Like he literally goes up to people everywhere and is like, tells them
Pitching.
about the podcast. God love
Yeah,
him.
absolutely.
He's awesome like that. He's like a street marketer. And like he went to a bar with my aunt when he was in Chicago. This was in a recent episode. And he like met a guy, of course, at the bar, and his name is Udell Watts, and he was like 6 generations barbecue sauce.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
he became like a guest because he was into legacy and, you know, carrying on traditions, and they bonded over that at a bar, of course. And recently today, my dad was flying from Louisville to Florida to go visit my grandmother, and he ran into a friend of mine from LA on the flight who was speaking in Louisville. And of course, she just recently interviewed her dad and was like, I have a daddy story. And so now I'm like, instead of interviewing a stranger, I'm going to interview somebody that my dad roped into it on a flight.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Stories
All right,
on
we can take
stories.
so many notes.
I know, geez Louise.
From you first and foremost,
So
but your
crazy.
dad as
but
well.
lean
Man.
into that. Like
Yeah.
the universe is bringing you those kinds of stories and opportunities all the time. Like,
Absolutely.
you know, that's how we connected even on Twitter. We were at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah. Oh man, so many great pieces of wisdom and
Yeah.
stories from this. Mahalo to you, Reena. We truly, truly appreciate you being on. Everybody go follow her podcast. Where else can they find you, Reena?
BetterCallDaddy.com.
Ooh.
Very cool. Right on. And Reena on Twitter?
Reena on Twitter. And I am also actually a LinkedIn-aholic. So Reena Friedman Watts on LinkedIn and Instagram.
It is a very fired LinkedIn, literally and figuratively. So it's good.
Right on. Well, again, mahalo so much. All right, everybody. Again, go follow her. Go subscribe to her podcast. It was truly an amazing episode. Man, I just feel like I'm so much smarter after this episode than I
Agreed.
was when I walked in, right? But yeah, everybody out there, please rate and review. We really appreciate it. And thank you for sticking with us.
I loved it. Thank you for having me.
The Joystick Show.
If you like what you hear, please like, follow, and subscribe. Just how we like chatting with our friends, please share this with yours. Feel free to join the squad and follow us on Twitch, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube at JoyStickShow, Joystick Show. Or if you feel like submitting topics or asking questions to be discussed on further episodes, you can email us at joystick.show@gmail.com. Peace out and make it a great rest of your week.